Like waiting for Christmas. Okay, great. Right, well, this is a meeting of the Grants Committee. My name is Anita Collier, and as Mayor, I'll be chairing this evening's meeting. And we'll be discussing various applications that the Town Council has received for the community grant. So first of all, thank you very much for coming. Please feel free to go up and refresh your teas and coffees whenever you feel ready. Just to remind everyone, we've actually got people online as well as here in the room. So it's important that if you want to speak, people online can't hear you unless you use a microphone. And we have got a roving mic that Becca will bring round to you if you need it, okay? Just for those of us in the room, a little housekeeping. So the emergency exit is in the rear corner of the room here, and the assembly point is on the far side of the car park. The toilets are at the far end of this corridor here, and there is a little extra toilet here for easy access, just to the right of the lift through this door. So tonight, Sian will manage the minutes, and with Becca's help, the IT, and the participant settings and the questions board. Hannah is going to provide all the information that we need, all the guidance around these applications as we go along. And just to introduce you very quickly, apart from myself, we've got other councillors here. That's Steve, Andy, Fiona, Tracy, and Anne. And we're all going to be looking at these requests tonight. So for those councillors attending by Zoom, could you please use the yellow hand? And for everyone else, could you ask questions through the Q&A board? Item 1 on the agenda is apologies for absence and declarations. So Sian, do we have any apologies?
We have apologies from Philip Campagna, who can't attend this evening.
Lovely. Thank you. Ah, okay.
Can I propose that we elect Anita as chair of this committee?
I'll second that. Thank you.
And that's unanimous.
Thank you. I'm now chairing this committee. The other thing we have to find out is if there are any declarations of interest from councillors. So can I ask, please, if there are any declarations?
Yeah, I'm director of the chef room, so I'll step out of the room for that one.
You're a trustee, so am I. Yes, it's a charity. We're both trustees of Chef Room, so we'll leave the room when that's discussed.
Yeah, basically it means that when they have declared an interest, they can speak, but then they have to leave the room before they take part in any debate. So item 2 on the agenda is, and this is common to all our council meetings, is just any questions or comments from the public. So is there anyone who'd like to ask a question or make a comment before we start? No? Okay.
Do you want just to check if any of those attending need to leave early?
Yeah, I've got that here. So we now welcome all the applications for the community grant that we received, and as always we'll be judging these applications against the published criteria, which I'll just remind you of now, and that is how the project will support Frome Town Council's ambition to build a town that is environmentally sustainable, inclusive and prosperous, with a community that is more resilient, happier and better able to shape its own future. A direct positive impact for Frome residents, a need for the project or an existing gap in provision, and how the project will be financially sustainable in the long term, independent of Frome Town Council funding. We councillors have already had a chance to read through all these applications, but at the start of each one, Hannah will summarise the project that each application relates to and how much funding has been applied for. Each application will be treated on its merits, in turn with a vote to decide whether to fund the application, and if so, by how much. Also worth noting, as per our terms and conditions, that any organisation that is awarded more than 2K tonight, so £2,000, will be unable to apply for a community grant for the same project within a 2-year window. Okay. Applications for different projects that meet the criteria will of course be welcomed. And as part of the discussion, councillors may refer to supporting documentation that you've already provided for these projects. Applicants, you may be asked questions if any of the committee wish to clarify anything. And we're asking you not to make a presentation, but just to please limit your comments to answering the questions that we ask you, if that's okay. Any debate will be between members of the committee, and they will then be asked to conclude through a vote. And as I said earlier, any councillor that's a member of this committee that's declared an interest will not be able to take part in that debate. Just to say, the total grant fund for the year, this year, is £80,000. This particular round has been allocated £30,000 of that, and the total of the grant applications we received this time around is 40,461. So you can see that there will not be the possibility to give everyone exactly what they've asked for, sadly. Now then, before we start, can I just ask, is there anyone that needs to leave early this evening? Yes, and you are, sorry.
Hello, Lizzie from Neighbourhood Toolbox. I'd love to leave before, like 10 to 8 if possible.
All right, Lizzie, thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you.
Normally what we do is take these projects in the order in which they were sent in. So we would normally do that, but if you wanted to cover yours early, Lizzie, I'm sure, is everybody happy with that? Is that okay? Good. All right. So if we look at that one first then, Neighbourhood Toolbox. This is for community design surgeries. Maybe Hannah will actually talk us through the project.
I'll just give a brief synopsis of the application, which is for community design surgeries, DIY retrofit advice. It's a project that aims to raise awareness and support the Frome community in obtaining straightforward, early professional advice, helping residents feel confident as they embark on retrofit projects and tackle challenges related to their homes. The total cost of the project is £6,000 and they're asking for £3,000.
Thank you, Hannah. Okay, any thoughts before we start? Anne?
I like this idea because we have a very large number of listed buildings in the town, and the cost and difficulty of bringing both privately owned and rented accommodation into an environmental age is difficult, expensive, and people need all of the help they can get, especially if that help is free or at low cost.
Thank you. Anyone else? Fiona?
I'm Fiona, and I'm the lead councillor for climate and ecological emergency, and I'm also on the Board of Green Healthy Frome. So there's obviously a bit of crossover here. So I mean, I completely agree. I think there's sort of 12,000 homes in Frome, and I think we know that 4,000 or so of them are EPCC and below. So there's definitely a real need for that. But there's obviously quite a bit of crossover here between healthy homes and the retrofit advice that we're doing. Can I ask a question? Is that? Yeah. So have you sort of spoken with Caroline here in the town hall? How do you see what you're offering as being sort of, different? Where's the sort of the difference?
So she has a great wealth of experience in retrofit and also has volunteers helping people with their homes. But none of those people are, I don't think, architects or building design professionals. And so we see it as a complementary. We did a pilot scheme last year at your 50th anniversary with Sally Richards, and she sat with us, and it was really, really great to have the two hats. So people could be invited to talk generally about the design of their homes, but then if it was a specific retrofit specialism question, Sally could then pick that up. So we kind of see the two working hand in hand together.
That's great and makes complete sense. Yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah, interesting you picked up on the Victoria Park experience, because this is, I think, the second time we've seen this application, and we pushed back the first time because it wasn't quite so clear how it was all going to come together.
Yep.
But I was really impressed at how that engagement in Victoria Park worked, and it was clearly getting a lot of traction from a lot of people. So thank you for that.
That's okay.
Sue?
Yeah, just one actually. I really like this. The only thing I would say is be careful of the planning laws if you're looking at listed buildings. There's quite a few, or conservation area stuff and things like that. Don't fall foul of that.
Absolutely. So we've recently done another sort of pilot, but in Bath, and they have a Green Heritage Homes scheme. So we had a conservation officer sitting in with us. But the aim is to try as much as possible to remove all the barriers that people see to making changes to their homes. And one of those is definitely, I've got a listed building and I don't know what I can do with it. So yeah, that we want to, as much as possible, find all of those challenges and then meet them head on in the most cost-effective way for people.
Great, that's lovely. Thank you very much. I think there's definitely no doubt, Lizzie, that we're very focused on retrofitting homes at the moment. It's very much part of what we, as a council, would like to see for the future. So it just remains about the discussion around how much we think we would be able to afford to this project, really. Can I ask for thoughts?
Can I propose that we actually fund this one in full?
Second that, agree with that.
Everybody happy with that? Okay, can we take a vote on it? Is that on voting on your proposal that we need a seconder for? Okay. Fiona seconded, okay, and everybody in favour? Yep. Okay, that's unanimous, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Full amount. Okay. Well done. Right, if we go back to the beginning then, the first one we received was from St John the Baptist Church. So if you could talk us through that, Hannah, please.
Yeah, so this is St John the Baptist Church. It's an application towards the renovation of the Via Crucis, which is the series of images depicting the crucifixion. So it's not had any attention for the past couple of decades, and it's the only one of two in the country and a very historical building. So it's looking at renovating that. And the total cost of the project is £5,780, and they're asking for £3,000.
Thank you. Any thoughts from anyone?
Is anybody in the room? I thought you were here for that one. Thank you. I think we were also looking at potentially using the St Aldham shields as part of that project. Does that move forward at all?
Yes, that we are expecting to use those up at the top as a part of the security around the top of the Via Crucis. At the moment, we have got it opened and the gates at the bottom, so we are allowing kind of visitors to come up and through and look at it. But we've got a very ugly fence, let's put it that way, across the top, so people can't get to the edge. There is anything from 6 to 9 metre drop. And so we've got to keep people off the edge. So we're doing this, quite honestly, in two phases. This is the first phase. The first phase is to make it safe for people. Now, so people can come through the gate and have a look at these very special kind of special Via Crucis there, which, as you said, there's only 2 in the country. And it does draw loads of people to it. Before, they've been having to look through the railings to see it. But now we've got the gate open and we're letting people come up during the day to look at them. But we're very, very conscious that if they kind of want to get through the fence, they could easily do so. So we need the ironwork that you were talking about to put at the top and put that there to keep safety.
Okay, thank you.
Fiona?
Can I ask, and it's probably a question for Hannah maybe, is have we funded anything like this before? A sort of a renovation project on a historical building? It feels slightly, are we going to be honest, it feels slightly out of our remit.
We've had an application for one in the last 3 years. Can you remember what it was? It rings a bell, but
I think it was St Mary's parish rooms, but that was very specifically to allow community groups to use it. Frankly, my concern with this application is we have to show benefit to the residents of Frome, and I can see that it will be a great tourist draw, but I can't personally see the direct positive benefit to the residents of Frome of carrying out this renovation.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Well, I was saying, well, it will bring a lot of people. If you,
I actually think we should help this one. I must admit, I think I get what Anne and Fiona are saying, but I think the heritage buildings that we have here, you know, I think we have a duty to help to preserve them personally.
But is that the duty of this fund? Like, I don't disagree. I guess I'm just getting to like the community fund. And if you look at to build a town that is environmentally sustainable, inclusive and prosperous, with a community that is more resilient, happy and better able to shape its own future, I find that.
A big part of our prosperity is our tourist trade, and this plays very much into that tourism draw. It's not about promoting Church of England religion. It's not particularly about, you know, mending the church roof because there's water coming in. It's about a very valuable artistic legacy that is of value to all the town, in my view.
and if you, may I say something?
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, and if you're at the church, as I will say tonight, take a perfect example now, I was closing up tonight, there are people in that church who have come round to see the Via Crucis and then went into the church. They're coming specially to see it. It's not as though it's something, it is one of only two in the country. And if you go online, you will see that that's it. And that's why these other people didn't come to Frome actually to see the Via Crucis. I must be honest, they were German. And they were literally kind of over the moon about having to see not just the church, which is a fantastic thing, but also the Via Crucis, which, they say, you won't have seen it anywhere else.
Okay, thank you for that.
Okay.
If there's nothing else to add, perhaps I can kick off by recommending an amount that we might think about proposing. I'm going to start by saying maybe £1,000 of the £3,000 requested.
I think the process that we've agreed is that if it's a part funding, then we'll just at this stage agree to part fund, and then at the end, once we've seen how many there are to part fund, then to go back and agree the amount.
Fair enough.
Would anybody else like to chip in?
Yeah, I would like to propose that we part fund, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, that's about where my head is, a partial.
Or are you happy?
Well, we'll discuss the amount later at the end of the, when we see how many we're part funding.
See what we've got, but definitely I'd like to propose that we part fund.
Yep.
All right, okay, so we've just agreed, we will come back to this one at the end
We
of the
need to
meeting.
vote on that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to propose.
Proposing that, you seconding, Andy?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think you need to vote on it until you get to the amount at the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Right, the next one is the Trinity Community Group, and it's a mural for the gable end of the Griffin pub. Anna.
That's it. So it's the Trinity Community Group have been working with the Milk Street Mural Gang, group of local artists with an ambition to pool their skills to enrich the community by creating a mural at a site in Frome, the gable end of the Griffin pub. It's a project that's been in development for 2 years. The design is the Trinity Tree, designed to reflect the local community's history and genealogy, as well as bring attention to local insects and biodiversity. There was a question for the group that has been emailed out and responded to, but we also have Adam Bayliss from the T community group online as well, if you wanted to ask that question again in real time.
Thank you, Hannah. I must say, I like the sound of this one, but we'll go around the table, see what people think. Any thoughts?
Could we ask the question again?
Yes, we can ask the question again. I've just realised as well the question was more towards the artist. So, well, let's ask Adam. So the question was, please can you clarify how this project will incorporate the participation of younger people within the locality? And by younger children, we're looking at those under the age of 18, but also looking at schools in your locality and whether you'll be collaborating with them during the project. So the response came from the Milk Street Mural Gang, but Adam may be able to answer as well.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah, our main focus for working with young people is the school. That's obviously going to spend a lot of time looking at the mural. Our plan there is that we've got two very talented artists and who have a lot of experience with community outreach, Baz and Jenna. And we are going to, well, I've cleared this with the head teacher at Vallis School, but we're going to work with the school to find some suitable lessons that integrate with their curriculum, where we can send the artists in and they will work with the children at school. This aim of the sessions really will be to focus on the importance of art and the importance of stories and the importance of nature and how that all comes together. And they will encourage the children to do their own artwork. As part of the process, we will talk to them about what they want from the mural. For clarity, though, we're not expecting to get children out there with paintbrushes or doing parts of the mural. I think there's just too much health and safety issues and all the rest going on. But we hope that by engaging them on that level, they'll be excited about the mural. And for lots of the children in the area, it's the most deprived area of Frome. So for lots of the children, they might not have much chance to have much say in their area and what's happening around them. So we think it could be really positive for some young people there.
Thank you very much, Adam.
Thank you.
Fiona.
I just want to say I love everything about this. I just think it's great. I love the idea that there's going to be the Trinity tree, like an area, like a small neighbourhood is going to have their own tree and their own mural. I think it's really lovely, the idea of sort of, having something that brings people together. I think it looks great. I think it's brilliant that the Griffin Pub and the Trinity Community Group have said that they will contribute towards the funding. I obviously love the biodiversity of it. I think it looks great, bringing young people. I just think it's, I really like that.
Anyone else? Or everybody nodding? Yeah.
I like public art as well. I like wall art. Yeah.
So we fund in full, please.
So we're looking here at £3,000 out of the total project cost. Anyone second that? I would second that, I must say. So all in favour? Steve? Yes. Okay. The next one is Frome Town Carnival. And maybe...
It's the entire committee.
Here in force.
So this is an application to fund running costs of the 2025 Carnival, which brings local groups, schools, clubs of all age groups together to bring the annual parades through the streets of Frome. The collection on the day is donated to local groups in need of funds, and the processions bring family and friends from within Frome and wider afield to enjoy watching the show. Total cost of the project is £17,000, and they're asking for £1,990.
Thank you, Hannah.
And
can I just make
something
a
to
comment before you do? I just really wanted to ask you, as the Carnival team, can you give us a few examples of where your money actually goes and what it actually supports?
Go, Sharon.
Don't be shy.
Memory than me to remember. Do I need to press that? Oh, it's on anyway, okay. Because each year we get together with the trustees of the charity to sort of have a discussion about what groups we would give the money to. Sometimes they approach us and ask, and other times we've sort of gone out and done a bit of investigating and done suggestions. So we've done Frome Birth Talk before, we've done Frome Fair Frome lots of times. Who else did we do last year? Oh, the Macular Society, We Hear You. Have we done the Scouts? Whittam Friary Football Club, Junior Football Club. We did one at Colford as well. Army cadets, yeah. Yeah,
Thank you. That's a good few examples. And do you have any requests in so far for this year that you know of? that you'll
yes,
be
we
helping?
do. Oh, we hear you for this year, yes, because we didn't do them last year. Oh. Yes, there is. Who else did we decide on for this year? I should have brought it with me.
Don't worry. Sorry, I caught you on
We
the
didn't put it in the application, Hannah, did we?
That the grant would be going towards is the running
Is the running cost.
Okay.
We fundraise all year so that we can then afford to, when the collection during a parade, we can give back to the community. That's the idea, that we don't keep any of that collection money. We try and give it all back.
Thank you. Okay. Any comments? Yeah.
And that aspect feels a bit circular because you're applying to us for a grant. And I know that's towards the running costs, but then what I would like is if we then had some say in how you go about distributing the money that you've collected. And that may well be something that you can come back to this committee for money that's been collected on the day, and we can give you ideas, perhaps from people that we've not managed to fully fund in this committee, would be good ideas for you to use the proceeds of the carnival. I don't know whether that's a good idea.
It's definitely something we can think about. We do try and agree, like earlier on in the year, what we're going to give to, who we're going to give to in this year's carnival, so that we can promote it in the programme, you know. So we would like to know in advance who you would like us to consider for that. Is that possible?
By the trustees as well.
Yeah.
We have got 5 trustees.
But there's no reason why we can't all get together and discuss that, certainly.
Yeah, I think it would be good to hear who you're supporting.
Yeah.
Certainly. And I'm
You'd be
sure
welcome
there's
to
a
come
lot
to
of
our
worthy groups
AGM
that'll be
each
looking
year,
to
you know,
for
and-
funding of some sort.
Yeah.
I kind of disagree about having a say, though, I'll be honest. I think it's, you know, if you've got a separate, Sorry. I kind of just, pardon? Sorry. I was just going to say, because it's on this topic, I kind of disagree with Anna about having a say. I think it's great that you've got a group of trustees, and yeah, I mean, it'd be great to hear who you are funding, but I'm not sure that we need to have a say.
We could always have a list of anybody that you hadn't been able to fund, and we can take that forward to our next AGM with our trustees. There's no reason at all why we can't at least consider those people.
I don't particularly agree with the idea that we need to influence who you fund. I think one of the fantastic things about the carnival and people who are involved in the carnival, either, you know, sort of giving money to it or, you know, working and supporting it, is that it reaches and consists of people and communities that aren't necessarily reached and involved in even, you know, I hope we're try and be representative of Frome and trying, but I think it's, I think people are emotionally involved and fiscally involved. I think it's part of our tradition, of our heritage, of not just Frome, but also the Southwest. I think it's one of the most wonderful things that makes up my child's, she's now an adult, memory of Frome, and I would wholeheartedly encourage and endorse anybody who came from somewhere and went, what is that? Which is what I did when I first saw it, to take their kids out there, because it's, along with the extravaganza, as it used to be called, it's part of what makes up the heartbeat of being a family or a member of the community in this town.
Thank you, Tracy.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to say pretty much that, only probably in a few less words.
Were you going to say it that eloquently with that much emotion, Steve? No. So we'll just leave it with me.
Yeah. No, I totally agree that it's part of the history, it's part of the heritage, it's part of the Southwest, and it'd be wrong not to.
No, I get all that, and I really enjoyed my time with you during last year, and I love what it does for the town. But I do struggle with this sort of circular funding piece that, you know, we keep pumping our public funds into it, and you do great things with that. But I do wonder if longer term we can look at a model where actually a proportion of what you do gather on the day is actually what funds you the following year, so that we don't have to keep considering this application as part of the community grants round each year.
Some back because we have to.
Yeah.
But it's still not enough for the running costs. But because we're a community carnival, the community's at the heart of what we want
Yes.
to do, and we want to.
Yeah, no, I absolutely get that. And I think we've started at sort of council level talking about different grants models and different ways of gathering funds together and distributing them. So as that conversation evolves, I think the Carnival team needs to be part of that discussion as well.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay, thoughts, please, people. There's £1,990 applied for. Any feelings?
Well, my feeling is that we should give all of the money.
Yeah, I
All
agree.
in favour? Okay, that's carried, thank you. So, yes.
When is it, by the way?
September.
Thank you.
And our fundraiser is Saturday. Just thought I'd get that in.
We're there to open it. I should be there to open it.
Yeah, we'll have a cup of tea waiting.
Lovely, okay, thank you very much. The next... You don't have to wait. The next project is the Phoenix project. No, you could, I mean, you're at liberty to go now if you'd like to, or you're very welcome to stay on and listen. Okay.
We won't interrupt you.
The Phoenix project, which is something Hannah perhaps can tell us a bit more about.
Yeah, so the Phoenix project is an application to convert an on-site shipping container into a co-working space. So creating a low-cost, family-friendly co-working and employability hub in Frome to support parents, particularly single mothers and those raising neurodivergent children who are struggling to balance work and childcare. So the conversion of an on-site shipping container will provide an affordable community workspace, integrated childcare support through forest school sessions, employment and upskilling support, including career coaching, CV help and digital skills training, and subsidised memberships to ensure accessibility for low-income families. There were some questions that have been answered. Is there someone from the Phoenix project today? So we can ask them in real time tonight again, if you want to. So shall I ask the questions that were asked? So we'd be interested to see further plans on how you intend to refurbish the container with an artist's impression of how the finished container will look. So that's been shared. So you've had an opportunity to see that. And then so one of the questions was, do you intend to follow the Forest School curriculum, and what qualifications will those staff be required to hold?
Hello. We don't follow a curriculum. It's a self-directed setting, which is very low demand and is a requirement for children with trauma or neurodivergence. However, our facilitators are Forest School leaders, and they also work at other places like Shared Earth Learning, so they come skilled and equipped to facilitate what might happen on a day, but they remain open to the needs of the children. So they're often cooking over the fire or whittling, but we don't have a set outcome for the day. It's based on the children and the needs that are presented each day.
So are they covered by safeguarding training and
All of
DBS
that.
checked and all of those things?
Yes, yeah. They've been running for 6 years as this home education hub on an acre of land that has otherwise been unused. So what we're proposing is to continue running that home education offering, but utilising this land in the centre of Frome for all the other aspects of the community, and this is a main part of it.
And will the creche itself be within the container?
No,
Okay.
no, they have 2 cabins and a parachute canopy and the acre of land in the woods. The shipping container is within the land, separate to the side, which is why for us it just screamed an opportunity for all the parents that are otherwise working in the car park or like myself in a cafe nearby in case we're needed for our children to be there on site and at that same time be able to do their own work or life admin printing or upskilling like what I recently did in Frome Library. So it's having another post for that, for these parents that are trying to navigate a more challenging route.
Yeah, not easy, I think, for working parents to manage the children around, I must say. Okay, any thoughts?
Question, and sorry, I'm trying to get my head around this. So there's an acre, so your address is on Critchell Manor Estate. Yes. So is all of what you're talking about on Critchell Manor Estate? So there's an acre of land that you own?
Lease.
Lease, okay. And then that includes sort of wooded pretty attractive area, and then also sort of an area where you could have shipping containers.
It's already
Well,
there.
you've got the shipping containers, and this would be refitting.
It's
Okay.
one shipping container.
One, okay.
A very large one that the farmer has,
Okay.
has just been part of the land.
Okay, but the idea is that you could the other ideas you sort of got about the future in terms of sort of community fridge and everything could sort of be built up. So essentially you're sort of creating like a space that could meet multiple needs of families with children who are, not in education, and provide, multiple things. I think it's great.
Yeah, it's for all families and all children because, as I said, at the minute it only runs 2 days. So we've got 7 days of unused land in the centre of Frome. So we're right by Critchell School. So we anticipate being able to offer after school clubs, weekend opportunities, GCSE home educators in the hub. It's kind of like screaming for every bracket of the community to be serviced in a very, very low cost rent 5-year lease. It's like, we just couldn't believe that it hadn't already been done. And this shipping container provides the first sort of dry, secure indoor space that for us, the primary need is to support the families.
As I said, I think when I first sort of saw it, I was thinking co-working, thinking we've got quite a lot of them. And then as I read on, I was thinking, oh no, there is something very unique about this offer. And I think the idea of also, being very close to where the children are, opens up a lot of opportunities rather than people sort of leaving and going somewhere else. So yeah, I think it's great.
So can I ask how many people are you sort of servicing, if you like, at the moment?
Yeah, at the minute there's 15 children over the 2 days.
15?
Yeah, but that's because it's just purely for that paid offering of a home education group. But we had a community day last month and 100 families came and everybody was saying, I can't believe this is here. This is right here in Frome. We've not had to travel. We've not had to pay. What can we do? What is there? So many offers of other things are now coming in. So we really anticipate every day can be filled. But we're right at the very start. We just took on the lease last month. So we're kind of fresh to expanding and to, creating something more.
Working in the container?
There's no one at the moment because we haven't converted it yet.
Okay.
So the container would be able to house, up to 20 people at one point. It's very large. It's got 5 rooms at the minute. It's all dry and it's got windows and there's electrics and running water on site. So many things are already lined up ready for it. And we just want to be able to provide this first step.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I just had one question about the location, actually, because, you comment it's close to the centre of Frome. It's actually quite a long walk down Nunney Road to get there and onto the Critchell estate. So are people using active travel to get there, or are people driving to get there?
Yeah, driving, I would imagine. It's not a pleasant road. I guess I'm talking relatively, as a parent of neurodivergent children, I'm travelling 45 to an hour for appropriate settings. So for many people in Frome, they're like, oh my God, we don't have to leave Frome. But it's relative, it's not like a Welsh Mill.
Okay.
Given that one of the criteria we have to think about is things becoming self-sustaining, I'm interested to know what the model or the plan of the model is for the future, really, if we were to give some money now.
We have a lot of avenues for commercial subletting. It's part of our lease. It's just never been utilised. So the space already has subletters who want to start to use the cabins when we're not on site. So we have women's circles, we have a therapy offering, and alongside that, the Forest School sessions are paid for by the parents or their early healthcare plan. So the lease and the land is extremely low rent and is already covered entirely. So that's why we feel really confident that our offering can be at no cost or a sliding scale for all of the community offerings, because we have a very fortunate, amazing landlord who had a neurodivergent child, so wants us on the land to provide this for Frome. So it also feels really unique, because I've worked with a lot of other landlords who inevitably the rent's going up, so you wouldn't really gauge this type of venture, but because we know that's covered and now it's just surplus, that's why we feel so expansive about what this site can offer.
Okay.
Just, I love the idea. Do you think going forward in the future there is any way of a walking route from Critchell School, for instance, down to the site?
I don't know. I'm so new to the site. I would love that to happen, definitely.
Yeah, I can't see you walking from Critchell School. You'd need to go over, but you'd probably be safer accessing it down Whitemill Lane, but even that's a pretty narrow, horrible, unpaved pathway. Yeah, I think minibus and car is probably the only safe way.
Just parachute them in.
Can I just ask a question, Hannah? Is this obviously the project itself obviously isn't within Frome Town Council boundaries? Does that have an impact? So where you're talking about is
The criteria is more geared towards who it's benefiting rather than the
Rather than
geographical
geographical.
location.
okay, that's fair.
Right, so it's a request for £3,000 out of the total project cost. Thoughts, please? Any proposals?
I know we're spending a lot of money, but I'm going to propose that we fund this one in full. The more I read the application, the more I liked it.
Yeah, I agree.
Anyone second that?
I think there's
Fiona?
10 children who need all the help they can get.
Okay. Thank you. Lovely. You have your request fulfilled. Okay. So the next one on the list is Young People Frome and the Multicultural Frome Festival for 2025.
Yeah, so lots of people will know this. This festival and related projects are hugely important for equality and diversity in our town. It addresses positive mental health and emotional well-being of all our local community and reduces isolation and loneliness. It allows Frome residents of all nationalities to be included and celebrate their cultural heritage. The total cost of the project is £3,200. They've requested £1,950. With other funding coming from Somerset diverse communities. And Lenka isn't able to join us this evening, but there weren't any questions asked before tonight.
Quite well, don't we? So, yeah. I have to say I'm quite passionate about this. I think we're such an amazing town to offer hospitality to so many different nationalities here, and the fact that they have an opportunity to really integrate with all their offerings, I think is absolutely wonderful. So. Any thoughts, anyone?
Yeah, it's a great event, isn't it? It gets a lot of people.
I think in this day and age, it is so important to flag up how welcoming Frome is to all nationalities, especially displaced people.
Good, thank you. Any other thoughts? Everybody happy?
Yeah, proposing full.
So proposal, please. Of a full amount, are we talking? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Unanimous. Thank you.
No brainer.
The next one on our list is Frome Compost CIC for a relocation of HQ.
Okay, so this is Loop Frome, and it's funding to support their relocation of the compost project from the FTC Rangers Yard. And the total cost of the project is £2,922, which they're requesting the full amount. And there was a question that has been answered, but we also have Peter here. I assume you're representing Loop. So the question was, we would be interested to have further clarity on when you would expect the company to become financially sustainable and whether a suitable location has been sourced.
Now, am I going to give the same answer as the last person? No. So Loop runs collecting food waste, and that basically covers the collection of the food waste. Basically covers the payment of the person doing the collection, if you see what I mean, and the ongoing running costs of the trikes. What we haven't got is the money to do these extra things. So in a sense, it already is viable. But what we can't do is what we don't have the funds for is something like this, which is a one-off to move. And then also, when we were asked to move, the first reaction was, oh my God, because these compost machines are big and we've really enjoyed being in the park. On the other hand, the reasoning's really good and we absolutely understand it. And then we thought, well, actually, maybe this is now an opportunity to up the game and to try and move into some of the other areas of recycling. We've got these 2 trikes which aren't doing enough. We could be doing more work. So this application is to move, and then it's to try and up the game a bit. And one of the things I'll be doing, or we'll be doing over Big Green Week, is to try and bring in a whole load more volunteers, some new trustees, directors, and sort of take us into a new phase. So that's one bit. What was the other question? The other question. Yes. So what's interestingly, Saxon Vale, so the directors of Saxon Vale have talked about what they describe as meanwhile use, and they're absolutely clear that we could have a meanwhile site on the Saxon Vale side, which would be perfect because it's near enough. And we've looked at already at where the old porter cabins used to be if you sort of go down past Lidl's. You know what I mean? Sort of in that area, partly because it's quite well, it's got good fencing around it. So somewhere like that. But then that conversation has taken us into and one which is even more interesting, really, which is to incorporate, you know, recycling, reusing in a way that serves that community in its final incarnation. So the idea is that we would move there as soon as it belongs to Mayday. And then be there to be. I mean, they're saying, well, yes, honestly, it's probably going to be 4 or 5 years at least before anyone's living there. You know, as long as one picked the site carefully enough, it's going to be quite a long time. I'm looking at Steve before, you know, people are actually living in houses, so that will be fine. But then to move into a site which would mean that people could bring, use, recycle, mend some of that stuff that we've always wanted to do in Frome, but do it in that site. Anyway, that's the very long and rather wordy answer to the question.
So, I mean, I hear what you're saying about Mayday offering a meanwhile site, but I guess that won't stop you continuing to look for somewhere permanent.
No, and we are, and there's a couple of other people we're talking to, a builder's yard, and there's another site which the rangers have just identified down, which is also possible, absolutely.
Thank you. Fiona?
I don't know if this is a slightly awkward question to ask, Peter, but were we charging you rent at the Rangers yard?
I'm trying to think of a non-facetious answer. No.
Okay.
Because Loop fulfills so many of the desires of the council, I think. No. No is the answer.
Besides of the councillor, individual. I mean, I do have a passion for composting.
There's been a certain amount of in-kind compost that's been released into the various containers of the council. But other than that, and tree pots, but other than that, nope.
Okay.
Any other thoughts, anyone? Andy?
I was just going to jump in because looking at the numbers, you seem to have quite a bit of surplus in your own funds, and I'm wondering whether you really need us to pay this in full, or whether a reasonable contribution might be a more realistic ask.
Perfectly good point. I mean, and there are some funds. Some of those are already earmarked for things like the St John's. The work that Luke's already committed to doing to build the new Broadway side, and I don't know exactly those figures sitting here as to what it is. I mean, you're right, and Luke can probably, like many organisations, can raise funds elsewhere, in that way. So yeah, that's and although we've said we'd look for a second-hand composter, the reality is that we probably want to buy. We might want to speed up and buy a new one with our own funds too. Perfectly valid point.
I'm just working on the assumption. Oh, sorry, Fiona.
No, I mean, I think you know how much I obviously love everything that Loop does, and I thought I was also really pleased to see the idea of cardboard composting, working with Sherlock and Pages, which we've spoken about a long time, and I think it's great that you're doing that. And I think it's all good. I think I sort of do feel a little bit that, particularly given that not paying rent, you're right that it does meet all those things. There's a slight sort of balance here, and I think what Andy was getting at as well, that because we do have limited funds, it may be one that we partially fund, but that's not in any way obviously I believe in Loop's ambitions and everything that it's trying to do is not a reflection on that. It's more that there is a limited pot, and you have had free rent for quite a long time.
Yeah. Yes. No. I think
we should have,
No, that's absolutely fine. The only thing I'd say is that could you partially fund everybody up to the end now, like not £5 off, so you have a final discussion, because at this rate you're only going to get halfway down the list, and therefore the ones at the end are never going to. So you're effectively saying no, I suspect, if you carry on making decisions like this. Anyway, that's a slightly provocative comment. I realize.
Can I ask a question? Sorry, Peter. When do you think you'll be getting the composter? Are we talking 6 months, 9 months?
No, at the same time as we could move. I mean, we'd set it up. So who would I talked to Damon? I suppose about a month ago when they fully said we could move, and then they said, "Well, you'll know this better than me probably when Saxon Vale might actually really happen. We'd buy it at the same time."
I tell you where I'm coming from is if we fund partial now, can Peter come back for the next round?
If it's less than £2,000, then you can come back for the next round.
I see where you're going. Yeah.
Because who knows when Saxon Vale's going to transfer? Yeah. Yeah. So if we partial fund now, and then in theory the balance.
Yeah.
Next round.
If there was some funds towards moving now, that would be great. And then maybe we could come back with the right hand if we've moved later on.
And hopefully by then we'll know exactly what's going to happen with Saxon Vale and all the legals that's got to go through.
Makes lots of sense.
Okay.
So I'll propose partial for now then.
And I'll second that, yeah, partial.
You happy with that? Yes? Yeah. Right, the next one on the list is Share Froome. So if you'd be kind enough to leave us. Okay. Right, now that they're safely out of harm's way.
Shall I summarise? Okay, so similar story for Share Froome. So, well, it's a relaunch actually. So the project is to relaunch the Share shop in Froome. And the total cost of the project is £59,250, but they're requesting £5,000. And there has been a question, and the people that can answer it have had to leave the room. So shall I answer? So the questions were, has a premises been located and how close are you to being able to open the Share shop? There isn't anyone else represent. Oh, you represent, sorry.
So, we don't have a new premises located yet. We've had a couple of possibilities come up, but they've had issues, so we've not managed to get anything yet. For the current location, we're working on getting a meanwhile agreement back in place so we can run to some extent from there, but with no security of that location. So we still do need to continue with looking at the new location. Just to add to that, one of the issues we had was we knew we didn't have security there, so we started building up funds, and then before we got to the point we wanted to, they announced that they were marketing it. And as we looked through the details, having, as trustees, taken over from Edventure as it migrated into being a charity, we found that the original agreement wasn't with us, it was with the Cheese and Grain. So we've had to work on getting that agreement across to us so we can then operate from there again. So, yeah.
So just for clarity, can I just confirm that what you're talking about is your meanwhile
is on the existing premises.
Where it was before?
Yes.
Within the old Halifax
But with the problem is we've got not got security there, but
But that would be where you would place yourselves until you found.
Yeah, so it's still a priority to find somewhere permanent, because we know that if we have very little idea of how quickly they could sell if they actually, they're technically marketing it now, but I don't know how hard they're pushing it. If they pushed it and we had people booked out 3 months worth of their summer through Share, which is what generally happened when it was open, we really don't want to be in the position where we're having to pull all of those items from people's summer at that point. So if we want to have security in place to make sure we can provide the service to the community.
Well, I can understand, particularly if people actually borrow or hire stuff, and it's all out there in the universe, and you have to move away from it. Okay.
Yep.
Fiona, Steve, any thoughts?
I first of all love the idea of the Share 2.0. I love a 2.0 vision. We offer workshops and educational sessions focused on repair skills, sustainable living and the benefits of circular economy. I think it's really great to kind of like be doing that kind of stuff alongside what Share has always done. big believer in share, and I think that we're really missing having it. There's been a few times I needed a sander the other day, and I was like, oh damn it, like, it is really we're really missing it, and I think it's great. My concern is that this feels a little bit like a drop in the ocean as to what you need. So like, what would the kind of money we're talking about do?
So we do have some funds that we've built up, but the rest of the funds would be via operational income. So we know that we can fund 2 employees for the hours that were open previously, and be making some revenue to be able to plough back into find a new location. So I think combining the income from existing, how we know to run share, potential additional income from the things like the planned trial of delivery and collections, that's an area where we may be able to expand. And the funds that we had built up are a big chunk towards it. So
I'm just wondering if this might not be another opportunity to say, because you don't actually have a site at the moment in mind on a permanent basis, whether we can do another partial funding.
I was about to say exactly the same. I'm going to repeat exactly what I said.
With a request that you come back.
So yeah, if we locate somewhere, then we can come.
Yeah, then you can come back next time.
Yeah.
A bit more.
So can we call this? Would you be happy to call this one a partial funding?
Happy to vote for it to be partially funded and come back to it at the end.
And then we'll decide exactly how much at the end, if that's all right. Sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Will.
Will. Thank you, Will.
Thanks, Will.
Okay.
Oh, I voted anyway.
Shall I go and get the...
No, leave them out there.
Right, the next one that we're looking at, oh, you want to get them back in, okay.
Tortilla rolls. What are you eating?
Chris, I think I'm trying to supper. I'm really hungry. Thanks, Hannah. Thanks, guys. So we've just been talking to Will for your information. We've decided at this stage that because the premises haven't actually been secured on a permanent basis, we're going to treat it in a similar way and talk about partial funding with a view to requesting Share Shop to come back at a later date once they're more settled.
But I noticed there's a conversation going on there, which I noticed there's a conversation.
There's a lot of synergy between the two. Yeah. Thank you.
Right, okay, let's carry on then. So the next one is the Meta Theatre for a poetry trail and poetry festival.
Yeah, so this is application for offerings, which will be a poetry trail throughout Frome in September 2025, offering 30 original poems by award-winning local poet P. Burton Morgan, alongside a dozen poems written by community participants aged 12 to 18 and 60 plus, who will develop their work throughout the workshops with P over August 2025. The total cost of the project is £3,700, and they're requesting £3,000. And there were 3 questions that were submitted to them, and they've responded, but they're also online and can answer live. Shall I prompt with that first question? So the first question that was asked, I'm assuming it's P that's joining us, but I can just see.
Right.
Hi.
Hi.
So the first question was, there's a significant balance in your accounts, and can you clarify how these funds are to be used, and are they ring-fenced for specific needs?
So our unrestricted reserves are split into designated and undesignated funds, and the designated funds, which is sort of 3/4 of them, are designated next year for a theatre production, which is the majority of the work that we do, for which the budgets are kind of much larger than these small-scale community poetry projects. And then the undesignated fund exists to commission and develop new plays. So again, it's sort of art theatre work, sort of all siphoned off of that.
Great. Shall I ask the second question? Thanks, Pete. And so the second question is, how will you ensure that the subject matter of the poetry is appropriate, and who will make that decision?
So I'll make that decision. I'll be working with the community poets in developing the work, and then I'll have the ultimate, deciding vote as to what we include in the trail. I'll just say that I've been doing a similar, I've done 2 similar projects, one in Midsummer Norton, funded by Baines Council, and one in Radstock, funded by Radstock Council. So I've got quite a lot of experience at it. And as much as I like to make a really inclusive workshop space where people can write what they want, I'm very alive and sensitive to not putting anything inflammatory out into the world.
Great. And the third question sort of links onto that. So are you able to provide some more detail on how the community will participate?
Well, I'm hoping that there'll be ample opportunity for volunteering. So as well as the poetry participants, the actual poetry festival day, sort of in pilot festival day, there'll be opportunities for stewarding, there'll be opportunities for volunteers to get involved in the setting up of the trail, and perhaps kind of in some, social media and promotion around the trail, so that it has a kind of, so that it feels community led.
Could you expand a little bit, please, on what you mean by an actual trail? I'm not quite sure what a poetry trail actually is.
Yeah, of course. So I'll kind of use the Midsummer Norton one as an example. So that will feature poems that we printed off professionally at Postscript on kind of a bit like the poems on the tube that, still are on the tube, at different sizes. So there'll be kind of A1 posters, A2, A3, A4, and then they'll be located throughout the businesses that choose to kind of get involved. So in Midsummer Norton, they're being hosted in the library, on a bus stop. There's one that is a mural that I've done in the skate park. There are some in hairdressers and in the Holly Court shops. So then there'll be a kind of map that you can follow. So either you can follow the map and you can go and read all the poems in a kind of walking route order, but you also might just happen upon them as you were going to buy your groceries or go into the bookshop.
Okay, thank you. I understand a bit more now. Thank you for that. Okay. Any thinking on this one, Fiona?
Yes, I think Tracy's going to say something hopefully at some point. Oh no, okay. I think I'm a big believer in quality of arts and art in public spaces. The same thing about the mural that we've just looked at, and and I think there's a lot around poetry, and I think it's absolutely great sort of engaging young people in sort of developing their own work. I really love the workshop idea of it. I don't know how to say this particularly diplomatically, I'm going to be honest, and I don't know how to say no, I didn't. I'm going to try, but it's okay. It feels that I think it's you. So Poppy, I'm presuming is you are the poet as well. And I guess I sort of feel that I think Frome has a number of poets, and I'm sort of wondering, it feels slightly sort of, just sort of focusing on one, and I'm sure you're a brilliant poet and absolutely great, but I guess I sort of feel a little bit uncomfortable with it being dominated by one poet rather than it being a collection of Frome poets. And
Can I speak to that?
Yes, you can, please.
Yeah. So the pilot festival will involve open mics, which will be, aside from the community poets who will have an opportunity to perform their poems, then all the kind of professional poetry scene will also be invited. This is a bid kind of jointly put in with Dirty Laundry, who run the 3-monthly poetry night in Frome, and will, who are kind of now becoming part of running the Christy Morrison Prize. So it's absolutely the whole notion of the Frome Poetry Festival is that over time it will expand to be a much larger offering, and there'll be far more opportunity. But obviously, this, in festival terms, this is a kind of tiny grant. So we didn't want to overreach ourselves in this first year and try and do something that, because there just isn't the funds to commission and support a large number of artists and facilitators.
I understand that, but I guess but there will be 30 poems written by you on the trail, and then a dozen poems written by others. So it just feels like that balance feels quite. That's what I'm sort of getting at. I do understand that thing about not overreaching, though.
I mean, I'm open to changing the numbers. That's just sort of based on the numbers we've done in the previous commissions from other councils.
Yeah, I guess I was just going to say that I think that what you meant was the balance, don't you? Is that it's for the community, but you, the professional poets, poetry would be 2.5 times the submissions of the community poems. And I guess the secondary question to that is, so therefore, where is the money, which is a large proportion of the money to be spent. Sorry, I'll put this in context for you because we don't know each other. I trained as an actor and I was an actor and a theatre maker. I have become an actor again recently. To some extent, I've done amateur work as well in between the many years. I work for a theatre and I work for lots of other arts organisations. So don't sound like it, but I'm on your side. And I also work for a charity that supports families and children in Frome. So this is very much in the area that I tend to lean towards supporting. But I'm wondering, why does it need that much money? I guess it's to pay the professionals.
Can I just sort of cut to the quick? Why should we spend £3,000 to put 30 of your poems up around the town?
Is that a rhetorical question, or do you want me to answer that?
Well, I think it's getting to the nub of that split, Poppy, that to put 30 of your professional works up alongside 12 contributions from community poets doesn't feel like a community inclusive event to me. And I'd be very keen maybe even to swing those numbers the other way and see if we can do 30 community to 12 of your own. I don't know what the uptake is going to be, but that proportion was what was getting made.
Was as a kind of, ensure. I mean, actually, as an example, with the Midsummer Norton one, it was going to be 40 and 20, but we've had so many community poems that actually it's probably going to be 40 community poems, and then it could be 20 of mine, or it could be. I'm not, the numbers. Obviously, I'm really. I take on board the feedback of the council, and I'm happy to kind of change those numbers. But for me, the number of poems that are mine is sort of irrelevant. Like the cost of the project is the delivery of the workshops and the training and the festival day. So whether it's 10 or 12 or 20 of my poems is sort of. I mean, yes, obviously there's a print cost to each poem, but I'm very happy to change the numbers if that's the kind of.
But I don't think it is just about it. There's £1,200 for the poetry commission fee. So that is obviously, which is, I'm, by the way, fully on board paying artists. I don't have an issue with that. I guess it's not just for me about the numbers, it's also where the sort of the money is going. And actually the workshops and the idea of a poetry festival and a poetry trail, I think is brilliant. It just, when you look at where the money would be going, it that also feels weighted.
I think there's a question mark in there for me, certainly. And interestingly, because when we take a look at all these projects, it wasn't one of the highest on the list, Poppy, I'll be perfectly honest, purely because we felt that the reach may not be quite as big as it might be. And you can hear the hesitation here, I think. So before I go and ask for ideas, anybody else want to say anything on this one? No, this will be okay. So it's a case of what we feel about this in terms of whether we come to a conclusion on a sum, or whether we agree the whole amount, or whether we offer a partial.
Well, I think we've heard from Poppy that that they would be willing to look at alternatives around the model or different ways of viewing it or something. So I personally think to suggest partial would feel more sensible. I don't want to reject it outright, and also it could grow.
Is this festival happening?
Sorry, I didn't hear the question because there were two people talking.
When exactly are you planning the festival and the trail?
Well, we've provisionally got a date at the Silk Mill for this September.
Okay, thank you.
September 25th.
Say partial and come back to it. I think we're going to have some difficult decisions at the end, but I think, that's probably the way right now.
Sorry, can I say one more thing?
Yeah, sure.
Still unmuted. I think given that I don't think there's a model for me in which I can deliver it on partial funding. So I think if you aren't prepared to fund all of it, which I respect, obviously I respect your decision, then it's probably better for me to just step out at this stage.
I think we can say we can come back at this if we can't make a decision now.
It's entirely up to you, Poppy, but I think we would need to discuss it at the end, certainly. Obviously, it's your right to withdraw if you feel that, but we're very happy to come back to it and discuss it later in the meeting.
Okay.
Okay. Right, so the next one on the agenda is Frome Birth Talk.
Is it?
Hannah?
Oh, yeah.
So Frome Birth Talk put an application in for a Volunteering for Everyone project. So requesting funding to support the creation of a bespoke volunteering programme for their community. We know there's a lot of love for Frome Birth Talk amongst young families in our area, and our beneficiaries would like to support us. We also know, however, that the people who benefit most directly from our services and therefore want to help are pregnant, new and bereaved parents and their children, i.e. people who are very time poor, do not have much capacity for volunteering. So this project would cost a total of £4,478.80, and the request is for £2,925. And there was a question asked, and Susie's also here, so I can re-ask that question in real life, which was, how do you intend to integrate with the work that Sparks Somerset are undertaking and their recent appointment of a development officer?
Hi, thank you for asking me that question. So we've actually, Vicky works for Frome Birth Talk as well now. We've got a meeting with Karen, the new Spark officer, in the next few weeks. And I answered the question in the email, but the general gist of that was that Karen's going to have responsibility for encouraging volunteering across the whole of Frome, and ours is very much our project is very much focused on our beneficiaries, who are very young families and bereaved parents. And to my mind, it seemed like it's almost like our minds are meeting here. You know, every meeting I go to at Frome Town Council, lack of volunteers or people not being able to volunteer is top of the agenda so often. And obviously Spark have recognised that, so they're putting resources in, but Karen is one person. And I think when it comes to engaging the people we're talking about, and I'm specifically thinking about underserved families in Frome as well, I think this is where the personal relationships come in. And I think we would complement Karen's work in that she'll be doing research, she'll be getting stats and finding out strategies from different places that can work, and we can also feed into her work with what have we found out and what our experience is. But when it comes to actually getting people involved on whatever level, whether it's in a sort of more intense level or just occasional support, that's where our established relationships with those families and those people is just going to be key, I think. Sorry, this is quite nerve-wracking.
Don't worry.
Well done.
Thank you.
Right, that's really helpful. Can I ask a question about, we have had similar requests for support to help for finding volunteers and what have you going out to the community. I was just wondering, I mean, I know, for instance, the Good Heart does quite a similar operation, and I'm just wondering, have you spoken to people like that where you might be able to share services?
Vicky works for the Good Heart,
you are the Good Heart.
And I wrote in the application that Frome Birth Talk is actually in the process, hopefully, if we get funding, of taking over Tiny Hearts from the Good Heart, because they have their own volunteers. So the whole where Frome Birth Talk is going, and I added another email just this afternoon about how, you know, it's often said there's lots of small organisations within Frome, and they're all trying to do similar-ish things, but all doing slightly different things. And Frome Birth Talk, I mean, we have our funding challenges, but compared to some of the smaller organisations like Baby Link or Baby Connections and the Good Heart, we've got very well-established governance. We've done so much work, the community fundraising this year, like all of our money, essentially, apart from £3,000, has come from Frome this year. So we want to use that structure we've built up, the governance, the sort of record we have to support other organisations and work in closer partnership. So I guess I'm seeing this application as part of that.
Okay, thank you. Anne. Sorry.
Our volunteers are very much...
Could you use the microphone?
Sorry, thank you. Just to clarify, because I also work for Froome Berthok, we have a problem recruiting volunteers at the Good Heart. What we do have success with is volunteers for the Kindness Festival, because it's just 1 week that runs per year, and it's very engaging. It's people attending events, and that's we're able to recruit for that, but we have real difficulty maintaining a core group of volunteers just because it requires a considerable amount of woman power, usually. So I think this initiative, I'm really in support of it because, yeah, I mean, we have 2 volunteers that support our under 5s group, but recruiting anyone else is really difficult.
Thank you. Anne?
It's music to my ears that you, with your stronger governance, are supporting the smaller organisations in Frome. And it's something that we as a committee and our work with the community groups networking, we're really trying to promote. So thank you for that. And I think the more we can build collaborative models within the town, particularly on areas of work, and if you as an organisation can network and support the other organisations in this project, I think that is a great idea.
Thank you. I mean, that is the idea. I also wrote in the application that, for example, we're including Baby Connections, Tiny Hearts, and Baby Link in the National Lottery application that I'm writing now, with it being the idea being a funding bid. I'm also including Tiny Hearts in other funding bids going forward. So, I mean, I'm only contracted for 14 hours a week, but that's 14 hours more than Baby Connections, you know. So I might as well include them in what we're doing.
First of all, I just thought you spoke incredibly eloquently at the beginning, and thank you so much. And I think what I really liked about this application was that you recognise that people sort of don't, when you say like they don't just want to be passive recipients and that sort of idea of sort of being done to, but actually sort of then want to be a part, and actually volunteering, there are big barriers to that, which you've sort of picked up on. I think it's something we all sort of know and understand around sort of, you know, income and who actually gets to do that bit of sort of volunteering their time and, you know, and sort of being a part of something rather than just in receipt of it. And I think the fact that you've sort of identified that as an issue just really, it feels really strong to me. Yeah, so I just wanted to pick up on that.
Sorry, go on. I mean, I did want to give an example of a young mother who briefly volunteered with us and brought so many skills. I mean, I don't know who can see this or who's watching it, so I'm not going to go into loads of details, but she was from the Trinity area, living in social housing, mother of 2 young children. She really wanted to get involved in our groups, and she did come along, and she had so many talents and so much to offer. But then, because, you know, one of her children was ill for a few weeks, and she kind of lost momentum, and she couldn't, and she also got her own anxiety. And so in the end, coming to volunteer at a group every week was too much for her. But I still think of her all the time, and I think she had so much to offer because she also brought her neighbours, 2 very young women who wouldn't have come to that group without her. And I'm like, this is exactly the kind of person we need to be involved in shaping our work. But to support that person, we need a bit of extra time to have phone calls and to do a bit of hand holding, and then we'll get the maximum from that person. So yeah, like you say, not just a passive recipient, but kind of, I mean, mental health is so complex, but you need to feel like you've got agency in order to have good mental health.
I think my sense from colleagues is that this is headed towards a fund in full, so I'm going to propose that.
I was going to say something, but I won't.
Thank you.
Great, thank you very much.
Right, so it was 2925.
What are we up to?
But yes, we're up to about 6. We're okay for a minute. 60. So the next application is from Rare Species, Mojo Moves Sessions.
Yeah, so Mojo Moves pop-up community park sessions. So they're proposing to offer 20 free-to-attend Mojo Move sessions and pop-up discos at various parks, public areas and meadows around Frome over the period June 2025 to March 2026, working with the Town Council to schedule appropriate times and dates. Total cost of the project, 3,200. They're asking for 3,000.
I love a bit of Mojo Moves. I think it's a great idea. I think you know, a lot of this comes back to mental health. I think I really agree with you about that sense of having agency, and I think also dancing and being together and moving your body is great in terms of both mental and physical health. And I think it's one of the things that does sometimes get put behind doors, like paid doors where you have to pay to get into. So having free events feels to me really inclusive and accessible.
Any other thoughts? Tracy?
Just wondered about the estimate of the number of people that it would reach and how that would be achieved.
Just opening up the application. No, Ginny can't make it this evening, so she's not here to answer. So, but on the application form, it does ask about attendee numbers, and in the success criteria, there's an aim to have over 50 participants by the 5th event, and
No, I think that's the EG. I think it's the one below. It's 20. Yeah. I think it's 20 plus participants at the first event, 50 at the
oh, I see. Yeah. So 20 plus participants at the first event, 50 plus at the third, 100 plus at the 5th.
Events?
20 sessions.
So even at their lowest estimate would be 20 times 20.
But some people might come on once.
I love what she does, but I think we should tag this for partial and see how our money's playing out.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, all in agreement? Okay. So we're into Hartwood Events, the Born Adventurers Festival.
Yep, so this is an application for funding towards a 3-day family-friendly camping festival just outside Frome, designed to help children and their grown-ups reconnect with each other and with nature. Born Adventurers is all about getting kids of all ages active outdoors and away from screens and doing hands-on activities. They're proud to make the event accessible for families with additional needs, working with local SEN specialists to create calm, inclusive spaces for all. Sustainability is at the heart of everything. It's a low-fuss alternative to a big holiday and a brilliant way to support the local economy while giving families a weekend to remember. So the total cost of the project is 60,000 and the amount requested is 3,000.
I think I've got an declared interest, haven't I? Because I'm Purple Elephant.
And as a partner,
as charity partner, so we'll be on site telling people about us. But I think the interest bit is probably the fact that there, for some of the referred families that Purple Elephant support, are going to be offered some free places, and I think that probably puts me in a slightly weird position. So I probably have to leave the room.
I think we might have to ask you to take 2, Tracy. Thank you. Thank you very much for volunteering that.
Need volunteers.
Can I just clarify something, Hannah? You talked about this event being set up outside Frome. Do we know exactly where that's going to be happening?
we do. Yes, but I can't remember where it is. So near Chapman Slade. The old golf course near Chapman Slade.
But they are working on the assumption that it will be Frome families that will attend rather than...
I think predominantly.
Okay.
Do we know where the rest of the money's coming from?
That was my question, Steve, because it looks like they're hoping to raise £60,000 in ticket sales, which to me is 400 families paying £150 a time And I just can't see that being achieved. I can't see it being viable.
Do we know when this is likely to happen?
It's the 25th to the 27th of July this year.
I actually think in a way my issue with that money is I think it is probably is viable, but then I'm not sure why we're supporting it.
Yeah, it's just
yeah.
That's another question, but I do think Andy's got a point in that it's not just £150 a head, but quite often you'll find families have more than one child. So you're expecting a family, particularly those that may be struggling, if that's who it's aimed at, to cough up £300. I know it's maybe cheaper than a holiday, but
just done the maths on the family basis.
But yes, it seems a lot.
It just feels like a big commercial venture with a little bit of funding being asked for from us. I'm not supportive of it at all.
I agree. I think it's a great idea. I think it does tick a lot of boxes in terms of sort of, families with additional needs and, and kids interacting with nature and being active and outside. But yeah, I think this is a commercial, there's a commercial model in here. And yeah.
I feel quite right. Anne, any thoughts?
Is it a not-for-profit organisation? Is it a CIC or a...
Born Adventurers is a CIC, but I think it's coming through from
Heartwood Events.
I love the idea. I'd just love to know how much of the money they've already raised before we commit to that money. Otherwise, we could just be throwing it into a rather large empty hole. That's my concern.
Yeah, I'm going to cut to the quick and propose that we don't fund this.
Who feels differently? Anyone? I mean, it's lovely to give kids the opportunity to get close to nature. And I heartily enjoy the idea of families going off together to camp. I mean, I did it with my own kids when they were part of Scouts and things like that. And I think it's lovely, but there are other opportunities and other ways to do that as a family if you really want to go off camping or whatever that's not too costly. So I think I would probably be in agreement with people if we agree on this occasion that it's not one it's not high enough on our list of priorities to fund. Yes?
It might actually, because it's come through under Heartwood Events and not through the Born Adventurers CIC, it's actually a private limited company, Heartwood Events.
Okay. So you're proposing that, Andy and Fiona, you're second. Anybody in favour? Steve? Yes? Yeah. Okay.
Quite like the idea.
I mean, clearly, if they want to come back and challenge Hannah, they've got the right to do that, haven't they? So.
I mean, there isn't really an appeals process. They can resubmit for next round with some more clarity of what how they're pressing our buttons.
It's the limited company that's applied rather than the CIC. I think our terms and conditions are there have to be a not-for-profit organisation.
Irrespective of that, we are. To me, the whole idea of the grants is for things in Frome. If we're talking about the other side of Chapman Slope, which is where the old golf course is, I mean, A, it's in a different county, and B, it's like 5 or 6 miles outside of Frome, which doesn't sit comfortably.
No.
Sit that well. Okay, so we've got 2 more to do then.
Yeah, 3 more to go.
Just for your information, Tracy, we've decided not to support this one.
Well, yeah.
For all sorts of reasons, but basically, a lot of it is to do with the fact that they are a private company. We don't have enough information. Okay, that's fine. Good. Okay. 2 more to go. The next one is Evolve Music, a sound lab with community music. Hannah.
Yeah, so this is a Sound Lab Summer Club, community music for neurodiverse young people, a summer music making and creative exploration programme for neurodivergent young people aged 14 plus living in Frome and surrounding villages. Over the summer holidays, Evolve Music will deliver 6 free sessions, 3 core sessions at the Key Centre and 3 outreach sessions in partnership with local organisations, including the Pod, Neurodiverse, Froome and the Harlequins Club. The total cost of the project is £4,914 and they're requesting £2,894.
Thanks, Hannah. I must say, I love this. Right, not to buy us anything. Fiona.
So do I.
Oh yeah, I also love it. Hannah mentioned someone that she met recently who knew me, who described me as wonderfully ADHD. So I think there's obviously a neurodiverse thing there. I think it's brilliant. I think it's something that is really great, and it feels like the kind of thing we should be funding that's kind of specific, targeted, a series of sort of events. I think it's great.
I just want to say that I think, particularly because it's that older age group of children, that lower end of young people, it's quite a difficult area to support. So I like it particularly for that reason.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's great, and they've already secured the balance of the funding. So I propose we fund in full.
Key centre.
Yeah. Yeah.
That sounds like an absolute winner. Yes. Well, amount, so that's 2,894. I hope you're keeping a tab on this.
Yeah,
Becky.
running totals.
And finally, Shared Earth Learning.
Not finally, actually, there's 2 more to go. And I'm just checking. So we've got Bryony Clark online from Shared Earth Learning, but she just did nip out. And so I'm just checking she's back.
She's back all this time and now she's back.
Yeah, well, I think, yes.
Shall we move on to the Good Heart until she comes back?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Sorry, that was the penultimate. We're now looking at the Good Heart, securing the future of tiny minds.
Oh, Bryony is here.
Are we going back to Bryony?
Is that okay?
Yeah.
She's been waiting quite a long time. Okay.
So Shared Earth.
Yeah, and Shared Earth Learning. So, Shared Earth Learning Wellbeing Group was formed to promote wellbeing through connection with nature and with others. It reaches people who are suffering from isolation and those who would like to improve their confidence and self-esteem. The group's limited to 10 participants who are typically a mix of all ages and abilities, including people who are struggling with loneliness, mental ill health, in recovery from drug and alcohol use, have learning difficulties, as well as people who are homeless or refugees. Participants are welcomed into Vallis Veg site every Monday, spring through to the end of autumn, and in the winter months at the Mount Community Hut next to the Key Centre. So the total cost of the project for this group is £8,305, and they're asking for £2,000. And Bryony is here online. 1990. Oh yes, yep. Okay, fine. 1990 is what they're asking for. There weren't any pre-prepared questions, but Bryony is here if you have any now.
Okay, Bryony, I'd like to ask you a question, if I may. How many people do you think this is going to serve?
She's on mute.
Are you there?
She's on mute.
I'll give her permission, but I'm asking her to unmute.
She's not muted or anything.
Yes.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Oh, lovely. Thank you, Bryony. Yeah. Did you hear my question?
Was it how many people do we reach with this project?
How many people do you think you'll actually serve with the project? Yeah.
So the project's been, the Adult Wellbeing Group's been running for 6 years, and people come in and out. Kirsty and myself that work with Shared Earth, we've been running it for 3 years, and we have some people. There's 3 people that come every week, and then there's other people that come for as long as they need to, really. So we can only have as many people in the group as we can look after and hold the space for. But some of those people may come for a while and then move on or leave, and then we have room for others. So I haven't got an exact figure of how many people we've actually helped in the last 3 years while we've been running the group, but we are open to continue working with anyone that is that comes to us.
How many people can you accommodate?
We can. It depends on the needs of the individuals, but we've said 10 there. But at the moment we have 10. But then a support worker comes with one of the young people, one of the young adults. Sorry, it's a specifically adult group.
Okay.
I like the use of the Mount cabin in the winter months.
Yeah, it's more accessible for people, so.
Yeah, it's a great space that is underused at the moment, so that's a really nice use of it. Yeah.
But we can't really base that as one of the reasons for the grant, much as it's lovely, yeah. Fiona?
I mean, I think the point that Anne making there is that it brings this kind of activity into a very different community, and the Mount is an area with multiple indices of deprivation. So I think there is something I kind of get what you're getting at. I think this is brilliant. I mean, mental health, it's targeting people who really need support. It's food growing, being outside in nature, all the things that I really love. I think it's great.
Hi, Bryony. You mentioned the remaining funding will come from the National Lottery. Have you already got that, or is that?
We got lottery funding last year, and we want to keep this group free, so it will always be funded. It will always be run through funding. But yeah, we received the lottery funding,
Right.
so this is just to help us continue.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
In the service that we do.
I like it.
You like it? Yep. Tracy? Yes?
Okay. Proposed funding in full.
So what's the proposal?
Proposed funding in full.
Oh, amazing. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, Bryony, give us a minute. But we did.
Great, thank you.
So now we do come
Thank you.
to the final one.
Last but not least, the Good Heart, securing the future of of Tiny Hearts. So a much loved free service for Frome families that has been running weekly since January 2023. It's a safe, nurturing and welcoming drop-in space from 9 to 11 a.m. on Mondays and Thursdays for families with children under 5 years, led by an experienced facilitator and supported by local volunteers. It's been supported over the years by a range of different funders, most recently Somerset Community Foundation and many others. So the seeking of funding from the Frome Town Council now is to cover the costs of the Tiny Hearts from June to August 2025. From September, the management of the service will pass to Frome Birth Talk, who have already applied for 2 years of funding from the National Lottery to cover its costs from 2025 to 2027. So this funding will enable the Tiny Hearts to continue without interruption over the summer, which in previous years has proved important due to the closure of other services, and it will also allow the current facilitator and dedicated volunteer team to stay in post up to and beyond September 2025, avoiding the loss of their knowledge, skills and experience and the warm relationships they've developed with the families who use the service. I don't think there were any pre-prepared questions, but Vicky is here and can answer any that come to mind if you have them.
If I can.
Sorry, I must just say that it's actually, I realise there's a typo. Ours was obviously submitted quite late on, probably on the day. And it is actually until the 1st of September, so it's 3 months until it says 2, and I'm sorry.
And I think this is exactly the sort of thing that our funding is designed to do. It plugs a little gap in a really valuable provision, and I'm fully supportive of this.
Any other thoughts?
No, agree with Andy.
All in support? So proposing?
Propose full.
Second? Okay.
Oh, thank you.
You did waive your voting
I
thing,
did.
didn't
Well, I
you,
didn't.
Steve?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
That concludes us looking at those people that we have allocated money for. We now need to go back to those that we've partially funded. And looking at the total we've spent so far, it looks to me as though we've got 7,000. Oh, you've got the figure.
I do. We've got £6,461 remaining in the pot. £6,461 in the pot.
Do we know what the total is of the part of what we said we would partially fund, totally requested?
17.
So what's the total we've got left here, Sean?
It's that figure.
1,461.
So the ones that have been agreed to partially fund is St John the Baptist Church, renovation of Via Crucis. The request was for 3,000. The Froome Compost CIC relocation of HQ, the request was for 2,922. The relaunch of the Share Shop for 5,000. The Meta Theatre, Poetry Trail and Poetry Festival for 3,000, and the Mojo Move sessions that were 3,000.
I've done some numbers if anyone wants.
Do you need Anne and I to withdraw while you talk about the Share Shop piece?
Do you want to do that first and then come back in for the...
This bit.
No.
Might be on this committee.
So my thoughts was I think we sort of nearly came to, with the compost and the Share Shop on the partial, if we go just below the 2,000, then they can come back to the balance at some point.
Each.
Okay. Yeah. What was the other one?
So there's the St John's Church and Mojo Moves and Meta Theatre.
Right.
I'm going to be really controversial. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this. I would agree with what Steve said, and then I would fund the Mojo Moves with just under 2,000 to make up the balance. And I actually wouldn't fund. I'm really sorry, given how tight everything is. I wouldn't fund St John the Baptist or the poetry.
Okay, hang on a minute, because we've got 20,000 float that we can draw on. So I would propose that we do the Mojo Moves and the St John the Baptist, but not the Poetry Trail. Give 2,000 to St John the Baptist, 2,000 St John the Baptist, 2,000 Mojo Moves. That means we eat 2,000 into the 20 grand that we've set aside for other things, for contingencies.
So, or 1,990.
Do you want to? At what point do you want to bring in Andy and Anne into that conversation? It's difficult, isn't it? Because you have to bring it into the mix.
I'm not sure we can at this stage, can we?
If we all agree that Share Shop and Compost are getting 2,000 each, then
I'm not sure that I do agree with that, because I don't quite know the process of this, but I would want to ask the theatre Meta people about the poetry. Would it make a difference to them? Would it make it possible? Because it's obviously sounded very willing to look at a slightly different format and way of running it. It could be the start of something that grows. I'm sure there was a time when Froome Festival was tiny. I wonder if some assistance, albeit not what they were hoping for, would help. And I don't know that they could necessarily answer that quickly now. It might be they could find some other, way of sponsorship or funding for the printing or something. I don't know. I feel to stop it in its tracks doesn't quite feel right to me.
I mean, we have this 20,000 that we, the 30-30 that we assigned for both meetings. So we can dip into that a little bit. So if you feel that we should offer, I don't know, 1,500, 2,000, then.
I mean, I hear what you're saying about the poetry one. My feeling is that although we're offering conjecture about how they might develop in the future or how they might adapt their offering, but we don't know that. We are having to base our decisions on what we've seen.
I see. She can't be brought into the conversation now. No, I understand.
Share Shop that we're going with the 2,000 because then we can get the other guys back in.
Can I just clarify something with Hannah? Can we offer 2,000, or does it have to be below 2,000?
1,999. Yeah.
Just to make it short.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Poppy from Meta Theatre wasn't able to stay online, so can't answer any questions.
I think that given, I mean, you know, Share Shop and Loop Froome are two of Froome's sort of, you know, shining examples of what we do. And so to me, I think I'm happy to agree to those two now and then bring the others back and look at what we do after that. But does that help? Is that, because also the other issue is, are we giving such small amounts that it doesn't actually help, is my other question. That would help you to move, and that would...
And apply it for the next round, which
I think for us it would help with the launch, or the trial launches of things like thank you. For us, it'd help with the trial launch of pick-up and delivery. That I think that's very useful.
Okay.
Right.
So I'm happy to propose that. So 1,990 to both Loop and Share Shop.
All in favour? Okay. Thank you.
Got your money and go.
Yeah.
All right, Susan.
So we need to bring you up to speed with the decision, and so far we haven't covered all the partials. What we have decided is that in the case of Share Shop and the Loop,
You should have gotten that for Luke, actually.
we'd like to give you just immediately under the 2,000, so that you can actually come back as and when you've got premises and what have you. So you're clear to do that next year. Okay. Right, so we've got, if we're doing that, we've got 3 others to talk about. And we're now talking about, so we've allocated 4,000, but we've got £2,461. I'm just wondering if we stay within our 30 this time. We don't have to eat into the contingency. We can do.
No, we don't.
Yeah. But one way to do that. What have we got left here? Well, now we've got the Poetry Trail. We've got Mojo Moves, and we've got the Baptist Church.
Just so the Meta Theatre person said before they went offline that they wouldn't be able to run the project at all with only partial funding.
In which case, I don't think we've got any option but to...
I don't think we should go into special reserves for it now.
Sorry?
We shouldn't go into reserves.
No, I'm in agreement with that.
I don't feel we should go into special reserves for it. I think it's a shame that we can't help it, but no, I don't think it's...
How can I ask exactly how much we've got left?
Well, we've got £2,461.
Can I
I've got
suggest
2,481.
Okay. Can I suggest then that we do 1,500 for Mojo Moves in the hope that we can have 10 dancing events, so half, and then the balance to St John's, to the church?
I think that's pretty fair. How does that sound?
Yeah. Sorry, how does it sound? It doesn't sound enough, but we will be very happy to have it.
Thank you. So we're doing...
just going to do the maths for us to say how much it means.
Yeah.
So if we put 1,500 for Mojo Moves, then it's £981 for St John's Church.
We dip in just to make it up to 1,000. I mean, for the sake of,
1,500. Going 500 quid into the 20 grand we set aside. I really... Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. I'll go with that.
Okay.
Yeah. Hang around for 10 minutes.
If you
It'll
sit
go
there
up
any
again.
longer. So that okay. So we've
Can-
just eaten very slightly, haven't we, into that?
Susie's got a hand up. Can we take a comment from the audience?
Could you use the microphone, please?
I was just wondering, is Ruth Nagg still working for the Town Council advising on fundraising? It's just in my fundraising research, I come across certain grants that are for preservation of old buildings and things like that. And I think with what St John's has got, they've got a good chance of getting one of those. Maybe it just needs a bit of direction, maybe.
We can put you in touch with Ruth and you can have some time with her. Yeah.
Okay.
Unless anyone else has
So
anything else to offer?
we haven't actually proposed and voted on that final solution, final piece. Yeah.
Everybody happy with everything we've allocated this evening?
Yeah.
On that basis?
1,500 for both.
Yes.
1,500
Yeah.
for both.
Yeah.
Okay. Carried. Good. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time tonight. This is never an easy thing to do, particularly in the public arena, but I hope it helps you to see that we are trying to be as transparent as possible and trying to be as fair as possible to everybody that's actually asked for some sort of money. So thank you for coming, and we look forward to next time around. And for any of your new proposals that are going to come.
And we hope the sun shines on Saturday.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Of course. Absolutely me.